A long time ago, some dude made some other dude who plays a lot of Fortnite a keyboard, and suddenly the Novelkey creams skyrocketed into being one of the most popular switches for mechanical keyboards. Surprisingly enough, this wasn't why I initially bought creams. I think they were in some random sound test video that the YouTube algorithm showed me before I was even into mechanical keyboards. I remember telling myself, if I ever built a keyboard, I'd use those. They sounded so good, deep and thonky, but I also really liked the name of them. That's the thing. I think the name of creams is a complete misnomer. And I honestly think it's contributed to the fact that the Switch has become infamous in the mechanical keyboard community. I expected a smoothie, creamy, buttery Switch, but that's the exact opposite of what I got. At the end of the day, these things are like sandpaper. They start off gritty and scratchy, and due to the POM material they're made out of, over time they get smoother. But the average keyboard noob like me is going to see a sound test or the Tfue build video and assume that these switches are just going to sound like that out of the box. On top of that, we're listening to these switches inside of a $3,500 keyboard made by a longtime enthusiast. So that's that. With the name and colors and hype around these switches, I didn't anticipate them to be so disappointing at first. I put them in my board and was honestly confused. So, how did I fix these things? Well, after doing some research on the r/mechanical keyboards subreddit, I found that these switches have a break-in period. So, naturally of course, after finishing building the keyboard, I put it on the floor, put a piece of packaging foam on top, then a book, and started breaking them in. I did this for a few days. I mean, honestly, look at some of the things that other people have done just to break these things in. At the end of the weeks-long break-in period, I used them to type for a bit to smooth them out even more. And I had to take my entire ID80 apart, take every switch apart, and start lubing. This process was not fun. Lubing is mindless in a good therapeutic way, but it's definitely not the activity I want to spend 4 hours doing. Admittedly, the housing on these guys is already pretty solid, so you don't need to film them. But I did anyway because I wanted these to be perfect. And then finally, I had a smooth and thonky switch. This entire process took a few weeks, as the break-in period should not be half-assed with these switches. So now you have a bunch of beginner keyboard builders who aren't experienced in lubing, needing to take apart their entire board multiple times, break in a switch, and lube each one, and then put the whole thing back together again. In my opinion, this is asking a lot of a newbie, and probably something that experienced enthusiasts don't want to put up with anyway. At the end of the day, there are alternative switches for cheaper that require less steps or no lubing at all. Here are some alternatives to creams that are way more beginner friendly. Switch number 1. You want a cheaper linear made out of a similar material but without a break-in period? The alpacas are for you. They could still use a lubing and filming session, but they do have minor factory lubing to give them a baseline that is smoother stock than the stock cream. And at only 55 cents per switch, these end up being a better and cheaper alternative you could put less work into. Switch number 2. Got unlimited budget, looking for that perfectly smooth linear with an awesome sound signature? I'd try some ink blacks. Loop these guys and you will be unstoppable. They're more expensive at roughly 75 cents per switch, but they're considered to be an endgame for a lot of people. Switch number 3. Want to save as much money as possible? Gateron Milky Top Yellows with black bottoms are amazing linears for the price, and after lubing and filming, of course, they're 23 cents per switch, and you could fill out an entire full-size keyboard for $23, or 65% for $16. That is insane. Switch number 4. Same price as alpacas. The Durock L series are pretty underrated, especially if you're looking for clear housings. And they come in a bunch of different switch weights as well. Switch number 5. Everglide Aqua Kings. They're 55 cents a switch. You'll definitely be happy with these. A lot of people are raving about these linears. Switch number 6 is marshmallows, if you can find them. They're kind of hype right now, so it's a little difficult to get them as of this recording, but these are top tier linears. They have a progressive spring, so they're gonna just feel like marshmallows when you type on them. These are arguably the best on the list from what I've heard. Haven't had the chance to try them, but these are considered top tier. Also an honorable mention, if you're a beginner without a preference of linear versus tactile and you're considering getting tactiles, go with the Boba U4T, you'll thank me later. They don't even need to be lubed. So there it is. At the end of the day, I don't think the creams are a good switch unless you're willing to put a lot of time into them. If you put in the effort, yes, they are thocky. Yes, they can be moderately smooth, and yes, they can make boards sound great. But if you want a solid switch immediately, look elsewhere, especially if this is your first build. I'm over that hill, so I'm still going to use my creams, but I can't recommend these when there are tons of better options out there. I hope this helps you find your perfect linear. If you're a cream user, feel your pain. If you like this video, I would sincerely appreciate you leaving a like. I got a KBD67 Lite R3 coming, and I'm planning on making some videos about that. Subscribing would keep you in the loop. And of course, drop a comment. I love the discussion, and I'm pretty active down below. Anyways, don't be a stranger.